This is getting so frustrating. How much more can we take? We're erupting like volcanoes, blowing ashes in our face. We need change. Like a baby, you hear the crying. We need change. Like a flat that's on your tire. Baby, we just need some air, a little bit of space, some time to think it over. Maybe that can help erase all the pain we've made. Let us change this hate, oh. Take a moment, think about it. Why we always fighting? Man, we be so violent. Man and woman riot. How did we get started? Most of us don't even know. No. Take a moment, think about it. Why we always fighting? Man, we be so violent. Man and woman riot. How did we get started? Most of us don't even know. Don't even know.
It's time to mend this gap and get our love lives back. Most of us have come from a place of hurt and pain, but that's not the only way. There's still a chance to regain the trust we once had, a must. Let's pick up our hearts and grow onto a happily ever after we go.
Take a moment, think about it. Why we always fighting? Man, we be so violent. Man and woman riot. How did we get started? Most of us don't even know. Take a moment, think about it. Why we always fighting? Man, we be so violent. Man and woman riot. How did we get started? Most of us don't even know. Don't even know.
All right. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Shalom, everyone. Peace,
Shalom.
everyone. It's kind of breaking up a little bit on my side.
We hear you clear.
Okay. All right. We're going to make it through it. Welcome you all to another session of Love and Balance Talk Sessions. We are here. Welcome. I am Nasik Harashi, or Chief Prince Shema. Everyone, please introduce yourself for the people, especially for those that may not know who you are. Goodness gracious. We've been doing this for how long now, y'all? All right, I'm going to pass the mic to my Isha. She's going to go.
Shalom. I'm Nasika Amuna, or Princess Amuna. Ishet Nasik Rashi. Shema. Princess Amuna, wife of Nasik Reshi Shema. Zehu.
Who's next, people?
Shalom, everyone.
No.
I am Mora Kayoya from the Remnant of Hope Ministries and the Isha of More Daoud. Welcome on.
All right. Come on, y'all. Let's get it.
Shalom, y'all. I'm Mora Ama, also known as Mora Tahora. Friends of everyone on the panel today.
Go. All right.
I am Mori Daoud. I am he. I have arrived. Remnant Hope Ministries, Board of Music, and the honored Ish of Kayoya Segula. And definitely family with everybody here who's on the board. We don't really do friends, but Roche is Slackly. Nasik is definitely like on the line. He's like, sometimes odd, sometimes bothersome, but overall, everybody else here is, they get an A+ for living.
Shalom, praise, yeah. All right. More Zakari, you there?
Con, I am here. Salika, you all. I will not be on camera most likely, because I am on the road. However, I am here. Shalom, everybody. I am more Zakaria Zamar of Binaya Shalom and honor him and great friends with everybody on this panel.
All right. Taraba. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get started. Let's get it started. This should be interesting. I am interested to know what the panel is going to say to these questions. And I'm interested to know what those of you who's listening are going to say. What's your thoughts on it? So before we go get into the topic, I'm going to bring us in really quick with a quick prayer. Before we want to bring out these topics and bring out these solutions, we want to make sure we involve He that causes to exist to be, right? The eternal source. So here we go. בוראנו אבינו מלכנו, אני מבקש שנבוא לכיסא שלך. סלח לנו על כל טומאה שהיא פיזית, רוחנית ונפשית. Our King, our Creator, our Father, we ask to approach your throne. Please forgive us for any uncleanness, whether it be spiritual, physical, or mental. Torah Rabba for allowing us to come on this platform. We ask that you be in the midst as we bring forth solutions to these questions and provoke thought for those that's listening and those that listen back or those who share it. Just please be in the midst of us so that we can fulfill the things that you have instructed those before us, for us to stand on the shoulders of those before us, the righteous ones, for us to become a remnant of a remnant. We thank you, Torah Rabba. Halueta Mokwaniski, Halueta Koakaniski, Halueta Hamalek Ha'elion. Praise the eternal source, praise the eternal power, and praise the supreme King. Let's get it. Topic of the day is this a make or break generation? So when this topic was given to me, I didn't know what the heck it meant. So I had to look it up a little bit. I had my thoughts of what it meant, but I was like, okay. So when I looked into it, and of course I want the man himself to let us know his thoughts on it when he brought it forth, the topic. It was what came, it's like the youth or the generation is at a crossroad. That's what came up when I kind of looked into it, a crossroad into, being successful or not successful, depending on the subject, depending on the topic. Of course, it's a very broad one, but I would love to hear none other than Maury Dawood. Let us know what's your thoughts on this topic that you brought forth. What was the reason?
Um, it's very near and dear to my heart, because I was sleeping and there was a Malak that came to me. He said, "Oh, chosen one." I'm just playing. No, what happened was, I constantly think about the generations, right, and taking a step back and looking at the landscape of our history. Here, our short history here of only 400 years, and then prior to, just thinking about where are we and where are we trying to go, and if we are at a pivotal point, kind of how those who follow politics, Trump, the political landscape is. They say that would be a make or break election, so on and so forth, almost every 4 years. But this one definitely. So it's like, okay, so thinking about our community, is this a make or break generation? Like, if we fail, and I'll just kind of keep it broad. If we fail, have we kind of set us back maybe another 100 years?
All right, Toda. Those what about you all on the panel? What was your thoughts on this topic? And those that's listening in, please let us know your thoughts. What's your thoughts when you hear this topic? Is this a make or break generation? What's your thoughts on it? But those on the panel, please speak if you would.
This topic it's kind of broad if you think about it, depending on which way you go. It can be based on whether or not we are doing the things to make this generation, or are we doing the things to break this generation. It can speak to our preparation. It can also speak to just kind of like a call to what we should be doing. So it can go many different ways. So I'm excited to see where we go with this.
Shalom, Salakli. When I think about this, when I think about the title, I think about the question like, are we built to endure? Especially the next generation that's been brought up on heavily on social media. I feel like that affects a lot of our growth, could stunt growth, or make some more advanced. But I feel like it's a question asking, are we built to last, or are we building ourselves to be broken easily? Sehu.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone else before we get to the first question? Anyone else?
When I thought about this topic, I thought that it would be a great topic. Being the youngest in all here. Sorry, I'm just kidding. All respect. I thought that would be a very, very interesting topic just to kind of see just what we think about this generation and, you know, see our different opinions and just how we view the world and how the generation is being affected.
All right. All right. Anyone else before we go? Let me see if there's anybody in the comment section. We got Praise Yah. Praise Yah says, I think we are right where we need to be because we're too comfortable in our situation. Maybe this is what we need to come back to the Most High. All right. And Mora Dawood says, I agree to a certain extent. Can you elaborate on you saying I agree to a certain extent?
Yeah, the we are right where we need to be. I don't think we need to be here because it hasn't awakened a sense of urgency yet. Uh, if that's the case, I think that we are going to have to continue to plummet in order to get to that point where we need to be, because there's no way to go but up. So I do agree to a certain extent that this is a part of the plan of the Most High, and uh, he's leading it, of course, because he's never out of control. So that's the aspect that I agree with. But um, I think that we've dropped the ball a lot more than this being a part of the plan. I yield.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go
My
ahead and get.
apologies, you all.
Oh,
May I
okay.
say something? I was in a crowded area, so I wasn't able to speak.
Okay.
But for me, when I first saw this, it was very, very, it hit close to home for me because as I explained a little bit during the last podcast, and if you know me, then you know and understand that children are like the foundation of all my ministries. So even when it comes to music, to dancing, to anything that I do, the children are the foundation. And Abba gave to me some time ago that this generation, we are the bridgers of the gap. So for me, that's kind of what this topic really brought out. So I'm really interested to delve into the questions and give a little bit of backstory. But I definitely believe that this is a make or break generation. I truly believe that if we do not live by example of Torah and how we are supposed to be living, then the ones that are supposed to pass the torch on, it's just going to be buried and lost. And Maury Dawood brought up, are we going to be set back another 100 years? I personally, I don't think we have any more opportunities at this point. I don't think there's another, oh, we just got to rewind another 100 years. I think this is kind of it. And it seems a little bit morbid and maybe just like a little dramatic. However, the conviction that I've received with the ministry that I've been given, it is vitally important that we pour into this next generation and that we rear them up, as Proverbs 22:6 says. We all know, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they should not depart from it. It's really important that we pass the torch, and really important that we establish Torah values, principles, and righteousness within this next generation. And I yield.
All right. Toda Rabah. So first question. First question. What are some things, and I really want you to pick one, but I'm just saying, what are some things? What do you believe are some things that can make a generation succeed? And what are some things that can break a generation? Okay, I'm gonna mute myself for you.
Boy, it's history being made. She raised her hand to go first. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let's set a what are some things that can break a generation?
That can make a generation succeed.
Make us succeed.
And what are some things that can break a generation?
I immediately thought of elders, level-headed elders, because I feel like the elders, they set the, what is the epitome, or they set the standard for us. I know a lot of people, and most High bless their memory, who they love their parents, yes, but their grandparents were their everything. I felt like, and I felt like their grandparents really set that standard. So if you take that from grandparents, imagine what, I mean, even us, we had in the literature, of course, the Tanakh, the elders, they were always the ones either at the gate or they set the foundation, they passed it down, that person passed it down. So I think some of the keys are one of the most vital things. Level-headed elders, who are setting the example, something for us to look at and actually see being put into play. The thing that I think that could break, what's the other part of the question?
Something else, right? And what are some things that can break a generation?
And some things that can break a generation? Households that do not have a mother and a father in their first 3 generations. As a lot of people love to post the statistics of what so-called broken households, and this is not for everybody, because there are a lot of people who have broken that mold, and even though they didn't come up with both father and mother, they broke the cycle, and it is happening a lot, actually. But I believe that the foundation of family, once you take those 2 pillars away, that is what starts breaking a generation, because you now have men who don't know what a role of a man is. You have young women who don't know what a role of a woman is. And I'm just talking about our instincts. Our roles start to reverse. And we just forget who we are. So I believe that households that do not have both level-headed parents is one of the things that will break a generation. Zehu.
All right.
I'm gonna go. If that's okay.
Okay.
For me, I think that in order for a generation to succeed, it would be the strong family structure. I think that is missing definitely right now. Just kind of with Nasika's was saying, just that the roles, the leadership, the roles of the men, the roles of the women, the roles of the children, having that fathers and mothers present, and also having our elders present, discipline and accountability. There's a lot of things that we also need to heal from. And there's just the righteousness. So changing the doctrine also can really make our generation succeed. Actually, fighting against that. We're really in this age where everybody is digging up knowledge and understanding. So we have to also start to put those things back in right standing. So as we're learning the truth, really putting the truth forward and taking ourselves out of it would help making our generation. Things that are breaking it right now, of course, us forsaking the Most High, a lot of division and rebellion, a lot of immorality, of course, and our dependency on the enemy system for every aspect of our life. And also, the biggest part is forgetting to train the next generation. We're not training them. So we're kind of just letting them run free. So that's also breaking our generation, because we have nothing that's being passed down from generation to generation.
I love that you said that. I'm gonna pass the mic back to you more, Dawood. I just wanted to comment on what I love that she said that. And we're doing that. We're not doing that, I should say, but we're doing the same thing that we did way back in the scripture days, right? Like we'll see the people be good for the moment, and then once that leader leaves, they go back to the wrong path. And I believe that those leaders, not all of them, but a lot of them, weren't passing that baton, like training multiple equipped righteous individuals up to be able to carry it and continue it going when they left. And we see that today. So I love that point, and I think that's important. We should be really training, really be bringing them up, right, and teaching them and looking, having our eyes open and seeing men and women and seeing their characteristics and seeing their integrity. And then, okay, I want to make sure I keep a hold of them so I can pass it on to them. Because a lot of times, us as teachers or leaders, we're just trying to do what's good for the now. We might plan for the future, but not from a standpoint of training multiple equipped individuals, right? So I thought that was important what you brought up. Torah about more.
Okay, okay. Me too. She's a sharp woman. Can Nasika, she just said a word and acted like everybody knew what it meant. I had to look it up. It said epitome. It's like, come on, Nicole, you can't just be putting SAT words. Like, I know you're more around everything. We didn't want a dictionary, but no. Epitome is a perfect standard. A person that is the perfect standard in or certain type in an arena. So I had to look that up. I'm gonna add that to my dictionary, Toda, and that is correct. Kind of going on lamb backing off of what Nasika and Mora Kayo said. I see more. I'm a, gotcha. I'm a teacher. Lamb backing off of what they said. A multi-generational vision. Kind of what you were saying, Nasik, about leaders not teaching the next generation. I think that they're not being taught the vision, right? So if you are not taught, the scriptures say, where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint, so they become loose. And if you look at our generation now, we are a very loose generation. Why? Because there isn't something that we are shooting towards. So if the generation before didn't have a vision, which is one problem in itself, and then for those who do, if they don't teach the vision to the next set of leaders, that they can already, as the elders are continuing to move forward as the Most High allows them to, and the younger leaders should be moving and thinking on and dwelling on that vision, so that when they are ready and when the Most High puts the baton in their hand like a Yehoshua, they already know where they're going. So I think a vision is what can make or break a generation. But you said to choose one thing. So say who.
That's excellent, excellent. Anyone else?
Yes, I think that you all gave great points and examples of what can make a generation succeed and break a generation. I think something that could also make a generation succeed would be strong values. Having strong values and having just good ethics. I think by sticking to what you want to do, having faith in the Most High, just truly trying to follow a code, that can definitely make a generation succeed. Just like we have the Torah, and some people have the Quran, or some people just have what their parents taught them on how to be good, righteous people. I think by having those things, that could help them succeed. I think that there aren't I think that there aren't too many people that have those things in this generation at the moment, and I feel sad, but I know that we can all find that. Like, it's always a journey. You can search for these things, and it can be found. And it's also up to us and others to share this information so that they can begin, getting good ethics and having strong morals about themselves. And then I think something that would break a generation, I think you all mentioned it. I think I heard it a few times. Um, poor leadership, or poor leadership, or like terrible guidance, like just not having the right people, or poor role models, just not having the right people to look up to, and as the younger generation, can demotivate you, um and also cause you to follow in the same path that the ones before you were following. So that's definitely something that can break it. um but I also think it was one more. I can't think of it anymore. But yes, just to follow up with what you all were saying.
Yeah.
Hey, you said some amazing stuff. Like this is why I love the panel. Right, you all bring out different things. You said a few different things. I can't remember the third one. What you said, ethics, and you said value. Ethics is so important. We can sit up here and keep the or believe that we're keeping the law, the commandments of the Most High, and can be unethical, which doesn't make sense if you're really keeping the commandments and the laws of the Most High. But we believe that we are, and we are unethical. And you said it was a third thing you said, but I want to stay on that ethics part
Mm.
because the Most High
Morals.
tells us to say that again.
I think it was morals.
Not morals,
Okay.
not morals, but that too, ethics, morals, integrity. I think that when the Most High tells us to circumcise our mind or heart, that's telling us to dig a little bit deeper, right, than just what's in front of you. Um, and I love that you brought that out. So I'm gonna pass the mic. I just wanted to put that out. The ethics, we forget about it. We think commandment, commandment. Oh, I'm keeping it, but we are unethical individuals. We have no integrity. We give false or um, guidance that can harm people, right? That is missing steps that we need to kind of ask the Most High to um, reveal to us and then put the steps in place to shift it and change it and do better at it. So, Toda for that. I'm going to pass the mic.
Hallelujah. So I thought of this question slightly differently, but maybe not differently, but in the sense of, first of all, first and foremost, I agree with what everybody has stated. Training the children up, ethics, a strong familial dynamic, community, all of those things I completely agree with. What came to mind when I was trying to dig, I guess, and just understand the root of the things. What often makes a generation, or what is at least the catalyst for a successful generation, often tends to be oppression. And from that oppression, we realize the ethics and the morals because we see what is wrong. We can pinpoint the things that are not ethic, the things that are not moral, the things that are broken. And oftentimes, from that oppression, even scripturally, blooms a new generation that is ethical and moral because they understand and know they've been on the hand of seeing what is not working and what is not moral, and what a broken family causes. And I think that's kind of where we are right now. We're seeing and we're bearing witness to, okay, this familial dynamic does not work. This level of broken families is not helping us. This is not conducive. We've been oppressed in so many ways and mannerisms, and now it comes to a head and people are like, okay, no, we want to change. I think that oppression is a very big catalyst for change. And then I think one of the things that breaks a generation is complacency. um, we see this again, just kind of like how you brought up in Judges, where we are like gung ho for something, and then all of a sudden we get complacent, or a leader dies and we have not properly been trained up, but that's because we're complacent. We're not we're not seeking to be trained. We want somebody else to do the heavy work for us. So that complacency then creeps and sneaks its way in. And next thing you know, you have a generation that is perfectly fine with being on, Section 8 or food stamps or what have it without the man being there because our families are so broken or, everything is crumbling. So I sort of thought of it in that way of root causes of what makes or breaks a generation. It seemed to me that oppression was really the thing that would make a generation, and then complacency breaks it. And I yield.
And
Hold
on that
on.
note, Nasik, real quick, shout out to President Trump for
What you-
ending generational Section 8 families. Shout out to him. I think you only got like 1 year or maybe 2 years in being in Section 8, and then you gotta you gotta move around, as they say. So shout out to President Trump for ending that complacency. So Kane, Morad, Zakari, shout out to 4-5. Now I mean, shout out to the Orange Man.
Wow. Okay, okay. I want to say this. For me, the second part of the question, what are some things that can break a generation? I believe the number one thing that can break the generation is a generation's arrogance. I believe when you are arrogant, that's the number one thing the Most High hates, right? That's what it says in our writings, and I think that can cause um, a lot of areas to break, and there's no room for true growth when that's present. When we think of all the moments where we kind of just um, was broken as a generation, I guarantee you within it you will find arrogance in some capacity, whether it was arrogance pertaining to dealing with the Most High as His people, or whether it was arrogance dealing with individuals and people that you are with. I can guarantee that, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things. If we can let that go, if we can come in a balanced way and have structure, have integrity, have those values, um, I think that it can shift. You know, I was looking up in Second Chronicles 7:14, and in the Hebrew, one of the words was. That's why when you all hear me pray, I say, um, "Ani mebekesh shenabo." I request to come before you, basically, right? You know, when you think of a king, shoot, they had to request. They didn't just walk in. Some might believe that we just walked in the presence of the king. We had to request to come before that king. So if we're just coming before the Most High, I'm not telling people to shift or change. That's not what I'm doing, but I'm trying to bring this out. If we're just coming, and we're not giving and honoring in the way that we should. That's a form of arrogance, and I believe that's what a lot of us did as Israel, dealing with the Most High, and I believe that's what a lot of us do, elders or youth within us as a people and in the generations that we are a part of. All right. Anyone else have anything else on this topic, subtopic before we move forward?
I mean, what you just said seems that we might need to go further into depression and oppression in order to get humility. The only thing that brings humility is, well, one, either you can know prior to getting a beat down that something is greater than you, or you're going to have to get beat up in order to be humbled. So, um, right now, I don't think that we know that something is greater than us. So that's leaning more towards we're gonna have to get beat up.
Yeah. Or we continue to have to get beat up. That's interesting. All right. Crazy Eye says delusional leaders leads to delusional followers. Yeah, that's why the prophets were sent all the time. I always wonder why us as B'nai Israel or anyone that studies the Bible, especially the teachers and leaders, why we don't understand what the prophets was actually and who they was actually sent to first. They literally, it was not sent, the prophets were not sent to the people first. You know, and it goes back to you all bringing out elders and things like that. We need people elders that we could trust, and we need our elders to step up their game, you know, and we that are going to become elders need to make sure we're not just talking, and we shift and be those elders that we're talking about now. We need to have that integrity, and those. I'm going somewhere else with it now, but let's go ahead and go. Y'all ready to go to the second one? Because I'm just talking. Well, y'all got anything else with this first one? Then we could go to the second. All right. Yeah. So the second question is, I actually got number one on here, but what generation before this one was a pivotal generation and why? What generation before this one was a pivotal generation and why? Y'all wheels just turning right now. I know. What generation before this one? It doesn't all. We all probably have different ideas of what it could be.
Do you want a positive one or do you want a negative one?
That's a good one. Whichever one.
Okay. Praise Yah, you said baby boomers. Can you expound on that in the chat? Why you say baby boomers? Baby boomers. I believe that's the 60s, right? Like they were born in the 60s. Somebody got to look that up. I constantly forget.
I'm not great with the.
Hold on. Let me look that up real quick.
All that good stuff.
Generations.
Generation X and all that. What's the Z? One up to.
I don't know what. Let me see. What they were. Yeah, born between 1946 and 1964. So that was the baby boomer era. Okay, so that would be. Shoot, that's Okay, I can understand that answer. I would say the generation prior to them. So who was before the?
You can't steal mine.
Oh, all right, okay. Well, you can go there and Lovely. I got a case for all of them, so you can use that one.
I mean, good or bad? Because I'm going good.
Go good. We got no bad out there.
I know. Okay, so I would say, between like 1916, 1940s, so like around there, because that's where you had the UNIA with Marcus Garvey. So that kind of helped us to get back into the mindset of Black unity, self-reliance. So that kind of started everything that we have here with the whole Black Panthers and all of that good stuff, economic independence, because he did the Black Star Line. So getting us to globally trade and do commerce. So it kind of put us in a mind frame of we need to have our own. We need to get back into our own, I would say, identity. That helped with that. And that's how the Nation of Islam started and all that. So I think that was pivotal for us because it created a blueprint for Black independence, liberation, economics, cultural, just political sovereignty. And it kind of connected because they had close to 6 million people. So think about that. Even in this time, if we would have just continued on, we could have been a lot further. Especially with just being connected. They had a lot of connection, a lot of people coming together and supporting. I think that in this generation, that is where we're lacking. That unity, that believing in something and really going hard for it. I don't feel like we have that anymore.
Excellent points. Excellent points. I see that More Dawood put it in the chat. Generation X born between 1965 and 1980. This generation is known for their anti-establishment mindset. The name comes from Douglas Copeland's 1991 or Copland's 1991 novel Generation X tells for an accelerated culture. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? Huh? Okay.
Could you bring up the question again, Rebecca? What generation before this one was a pivotal generation and why? I would have to say before integration. And then if I had to say another one, because to me they kind of work neck and neck, the generation of the like Black Panthers, the Fred Hampton era, because I felt like a lot of our people, that was when the zeal to still, for lack of terminology, blackness was being fought for. The 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 fight was literally to the death for some of those leaders. And I know what we're doing. I know we're doing what we have to do. Everybody has a different calling and a different assignment, but they did more doing than they did talking. That's why they were being assassinated. They were being pulled out of their homes because they were actually doing something that was causing a threat to the GOV. There was like, oh, these people are establishing their identity. They're actually doing something for themselves. And that is when you really become a threat. Um, the lurkers don't really care if we're just talking about it. They see stuff moving, and then that's when they get busy. So I feel like before integration, and then the era really of the freedom fighters. I think like Mordecai Yulia said, like the era of Marcus Garvey, they were actually. I felt like the fight was so, and of course there were, I believe, no, not just I believe, but there were during that time Israelite establishments. And I don't know the names of those, but there were Israelite establishments. My mother was born, or my aunt was born in the 60s, and so was my ab. And they, even as little children, said they remember people that called themselves, not Yahwistics. They called themselves something, but they would always say Yahweh. And so she said
Yahweh.
they Yahweh's Torah came. She said there were people that were still. They said they went by the Torah. They celebrated Shabbat. They didn't do Sunday. So there were movements back then. But that era where I felt like it was important to be. It was important to be Black, and it was important to have some level of self-respect. I'm not saying all that's been thrown out the window, but y'all, these podcasts and these YouTube things, it feels like if our ancestors and forefathers was like looked at, they'd be like, what were we fighting for? For y'all to fight each other? So that's my 2 cents. Sehu.
I'll go
All
ahead.
right. Told I. Go ahead. Who's next?
I'll go ahead.
Mm.
Yes, like like Akoti Kayuya and Nasika Amuna has said, I agree. I guess what is that? Maury Dawood put it in the chat, the silent generation. So it's like the late 1920s until I think the late 1960s, and that will be the baby boomers. So like a little bit of some of those people from the silent generation where they had civil rights activists who were really going through, trying to, I guess, I don't think it was just integrate, but at least be treated like human beings. I think they were very important. Can we throw the question up again? They were very important and pivotal, as well as the generation of the Black Panthers. And I'm biased, of course. I'm biased. Coming from Black Panthers, with my grandparents, that generation was very pivotal in my opinion, because they offer just so many things for, just Black communities all over. It wasn't just specifically for a certain group, it was for the entire community. They were way more connected. It didn't matter too much, you know, who you praise, or like where you went to where you went to pray, and all those things, just all the things that can divide us. They weren't too worried about it at the time. They were more so just trying to uplift the Black community by offering, what was it, programs to feed children. It was so many things, by fighting against COINTELPRO. Like, who does that? Like, we don't see that much. I mean, I see this generation, trying. Like, I'm not going to say like we don't try. There's people trying in different forms in a way that we can. um but they were just so much more active, like planning, having meetings, Black love, Black families. It was very important to, highlight, I guess, what we talk about in the Hebrew Israelite community, that Black masculine father, that, Black feminine mother, children, having a well-rounded household, just being involved, not just in their family, but in the community. Just having like these great leaders like Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, Fred Hampton. I'm just thinking of like all these, leaders that were just very important. And they fed us. They, put out information that we could read to know who we are, to, establish Black businesses. As, there were a lot of Black businesses that started in Atlanta. And so just, bouncing off of that, like, that was a very, very pivotal generation, I think. And we got a lot to learn if we just look. So, yeah.
You know what's interesting? I wish Chief Prince Zabulon was here. He might be watching, but I wish he was here because he could speak a lot more eloquently than I am going to bring out. What I'm about to bring out, I should say. Everyone that people mentioned, from your Malcolm X to your Martin Luther Kings to your Noble Drew Ali's, except maybe even Marcus Garvey, to be honest with you, because he was in his height around 1920, and we had people that went back to the late 1800s. Every movement that we know of, did y'all know that it was an Israelite present? Every movement every movement that we know of, from your Malcolm X's, from anyone, from your Farrakhan's, it was an Israelite present. I want you all to look into someone. I got this book right here, right? This is written by Chief Prince Zabulon. And the person I always go back to, my issue, I was bringing it up a little bit too. His name is Prince Yaakov Nasi. And I'm going to go back to Onasi Yaakov, people will say. And I'm going to go back to this right here. So Mori Daoud brought out the silent generation born between 1928 and 1945, right? And Nasi Yaakov was born in 1920, it said, 1925. And in that area, we had people that was so-called Black people that was they was figuring out who they was, from like Prophet Cherry to all them. And we started going like the Jewish route. And this individual is one of the ones that kind of influenced a lot of people from your Ben Amis, right, who have went over to took them over to Africa, Liberia, 1967 area, 1970 area, to go into Damona, what we know Damona to be. But I wanted to bring it out because as I was listening to Mora Ama, I remember having a conversation with Chief Prince Zabulon, and he had pictures of a few different people that we call pioneers, and it was an Israelite president, and they would come and they would learn from us. So I'm gonna do a little more study on that. Maybe another another platform that we'll do or another segment that we'll do, I'll start trying to bring it out. But do your history, learn your history on these things. Go deeper. A lot of these individuals that we bring out and we take our hats to, a lot of them was learning from us, and that isn't to say like that puts us higher. No, we was always there. It was always present, and I thought it was interesting. So I'm gonna pass the mic. Was any of you familiar with that? Was any of you all familiar with that at all? No.
No, I was not.
Yeah,
Okay. Um.
Yeah.
Oh. Go ahead. Mora. Zakari.
that was Amara Zakaya. Go ahead, Amara. What was you about to say?
Oh. Oh. It sounded okay. Yeah. Marcus Garvey. I know that he had a lot of Israelites in his cabinet, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um. And he decided not to
Mm-hmm.
promote that and put it on the forefront due to him wanting, quote unquote, all of the paradigms and the quote unquote African diaspora to kind of come together. So I I forget the rabbi's name. Start Rabbi Josiah. I want to say was one of his main um, counselors, and he was also he wrote the anthem for Marcus Garvey's um, organization, and he was very pivotal in what he was doing. But yeah, so the problem with the leaders of that time is that even though they may have had Israelite, I'm not familiar with Malcolm or Martin's involvement with Israelites. Malcolm a little bit, but all of them didn't push it forward. It's kind of like they had the information in their back pocket. They took bits and pieces, but they didn't promote it to the extent that the Most High would then get involved. And I think that was uh, for a reason. But as you said, that could be discussed on another segment. But Marcus, I'm definitely familiar with his cabinet.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that one day. All right. Anyone else have? Did we go through everyone already or no? On
I
this
did want
topic?
to add to this topic because every time we talk about like pivotal things, there were always a transition after every pivotal point. So like kind of what we all expressed about the 60s, the 40s, the 20s. Then when we got to the 1980s, the 1990s, there was a transition. This is where you get the everybody going to jail. My words is everywhere. This is where the welfare came in. This is where the drug epidemic came in. So every pivotal moment, there's always a transition. And I think because of that, it kind of puts us back every time. And I think that we're in between that too, where there's a pivotal moment, yes, but then there's a transition. And that's the hard part for us. We don't know how to break that transition and transition righteously where we can get to the other side. Instead, somehow we get lost in the transition. And that's kind of where I would say our issues are.
Okay, if I can tap in on that. One generation that wasn't mentioned and kind of going into that transitional topic that Mark Kayoya was just speaking on. We don't talk about the generation after the 70s. So that let's see, that's Generation X, right? The born between 65 and 80. That generation, or I'll just specify those who were 20 and above in the 1980s. This is all your fault. Just want to put that out there if anybody who's watching and want to date. If you were able to jump off the porch, if you were 20, 30, 40, 50 in the 1980s, this is your fault. And the reason why I say that is we were going on a positive route right? From 1920s, you get out of slavery, 1865, quote unquote. You keep going, the Reconstruction, boom. Then you got the period where the um, Black Wall Streets and the Rosewoods and all those things were happening. Okay, boom. Now you get to the 60s, and now we're trying to take another leap. And then they kill the leaders. And then right after that, we have a choice. And those adults and elders of that time, right toward the middle 70s, beginning of the 80s, they chose wrong. And we kind of fell apart in the 1980s, which has led to, and yes, you the mm, the war was the heat was turned up in the 1980s. You got the war on drugs in the 1980s. Um, uh, Three strikes rules was at the beginning of the 90s, but that was due to those who were in office in the 80s, including your Bidens and so on and so forth, right? At the beginning of the 90s. In the 80s, uh, houses were broken up, war was going on. Then you introduce hip hop. That's where the concentration of the war was, because we were going up the stairs. And now in the 80s, from the 80s, now each generation after that, we are descending. And now we are probably at the, I would say, one of our worst conditions since uh prior mentally. I would say that we are in one of our worst conditions comparable to when we were just coming out of slavery. I would say that we are in a mental condition compared to that. Because outside of that, we understood family structure. We were very, very talking about ethics and things of that nature. We were definitely honed in on those things: family, spirituality, community, all those things we were heavy on. Once the 80s happened, there was a decline, and all of those things are no longer present in the majority of our households because of, to me, the pivotal point of the 1980s. And I,
Those are some good points. Go ahead, Mr.
Hallelujah.
Kelly.
Um, yeah, to I guess go along with what everybody has stated thus far. I definitely think that all the generations have had pros and cons in the pivotalness, I guess you could say, of each generation. But I, for me, I guess the focus point, or the one that really, really stood out to me, was like the Harlem Renaissance era, which a lot of people did bring up, which wasn't really necessarily, it was like before the Black Panther Party and all of those things, where a lot of oppression was happening and a lot of lynchings were happening, and you have your artists like your Langston Hughes, your Billie Holidays, um, a lot of these artists that were coming forth and speaking on the issues and bringing out these morals and these ethical issues that were happening within the United States and with globally, really. And they were speaking out on these things, and they were bringing it to the forefront, and they were bringing it to light. And to me, it was just a beautiful snowball effect, because then from there, then blossomed the Black Panther Party and the WIC program and the breakfast program for the children's. And it brought about a further level of actionability, rather than, what they were doing through artistry and music, which was still extraordinarily powerful, but they weren't able to physically do anything at that point. But what they did was they used what they could. They used their voices, they used their artistry, they used everything that they were gifted and talented with to bring out a different level and a different understanding of these ethic issues that were happening, which then transitioned into the next level of people actually doing. It was almost like the Black Panther Party was like a death before dishonor type of mentality, and we would fight for our lives. And I agree 100%. I was going to bring that up more, Dawood, how in the 80s, it literally was a transition from understanding from the oppressive state that we needed more ethics and more morals to a level of complacency. You had the peace era where everybody's smoking weed and we won't fight anymore and we don't want wars, all the way to the crack epidemic, which in a sense really was a forced complacency because we understand what drugs actually do to people. However, it is still very much a level of complacency. So we went from the 1920s being oppressed, heavily oppressed, and that oppression stemming and being a huge catalyst to this big, huge movement of self acceptance, love, community, structure, and all of these things, to then being complacent and having all of these narcotics really cloud our minds and cloud the minds of the people, and to the point in which now we are complacent. And so now I think, like Mordecai Yulia said, we are coming into that kind of transitional era. And some of us, I don't want to say some of us are more aware about what is happening than others, but it is very intentional. Some of us are intentionally aware because we see the ethic issues and the ethical crises that are happening. And with that, that transition is going to come, like I said in the beginning, I believe that transition is going to come from us. It's us that is either going to push this transition along to the positive, or continue on, or let it die. I think it's going to die. I think our ethics and our morals and all those things, if we don't stand up and use whatever it is we have, our voices, our songs, our artistry, if we don't embody what was so pivotal in that Harlem Renaissance era, then I don't know what's going to happen. I can't say what's going to happen, but in my mind, all will be lost. And I know that's really dramatic, but in my mind, that really helps me to understand the seriousness not only of what is happening, but the seriousness of what the Father is commanding me to do. I feel like, me personally, I need to have that mindset because I need to be able to take it as seriously as it is. I don't want to be complacent. I don't want to think that, oh, it's okay, we've got more time or anything like that. No, me personally, knowing myself, um I need to be very headstrong about this and very serious about the gifts and talents. So I would say, yeah, I would say all of them, have their pros and cons. They taught us various things. Um, but I definitely think the Harlem Renaissance era was the most pivotal because it started that snowball effect that led into the other generations really equipping themselves with the physical strength and power to actually get things done. I yield.
All right. And I think that is everyone on that one. I believe so. Yes, 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 yes. Rabbi Four, it's a lot that we don't know about our the Israelite movement, as people say, that was here in the US. And that's why I push Chief Prince Abulin's book so much, because he is the historian of historians of our time, scribe of scribes of our time and other times. And a lot of things that we don't know, we need to know. It can help us understand things a little better. So right now, this is the segment that's called Is This True? I just threw this in there. It's a new segment called Is This True? Had to spice it up a little bit. And I know that I'm going to be asking some of the panel to bring us a video every week so we can ask the people that's watching and the people on the panel, is this true? So I'm about to bring out a video. I'm going to share a video, and I want to know what's you all's take on it. Is this true? All right. Let me go to it really quickly. Hold on one second, y'all. Hold on. Let me set it up right. All right. Here we go. About to present the screen. Share it. Let's go to it. Am I froze? Is it showing?
No, but it's not showing.
Nothing's showing right now?
No, it's coming up. It's just taking its time.
Let me know when y'all see it, and I'm going to press. Okay, here we go.
asked me, how did I feel about the Priscilla lady? And up until this moment, I had no idea who the Priscilla lady was because I stay away from women's content in general, simply because it's always the same concept, same topics, same conclusions. Men aren't this, men aren't that, men can't do this, men can't do that. And last but not least, I looked at a few of her videos last night and she pretty much talking about the same thing. But she hit us with the men are incapable of love.
One, men are incapable of love, first and foremost.
It's like, I don't know how women are not tired of listening to that type of content at this point. When I click on her video or any other woman's video that speak like that, it gives me a fucking migraine, because it's like, what are you talking about? You are better off, ma'am, just simply saying that I personally have not received love in a real way from a man. I don't think that men are incapable of love, and I don't think that men are incapable of loving. I think that women refuse to understand that men and women are just simply different. I think that women refuse to understand that men have their way of showing love, and it's not going to be in the way that women show love. And until women stop searching for a woman inside of a man, y'all are going to forever be lost. Y'all are going to forever not understand men. Y'all are going to forever have issues, and y'all going to forever think that men don't like us. They hate us. Oh my God, so we're going to hate them. Y'all have to learn to respect men and learn to listen and learn to understand men the way that men want to be understood and heard and loved and respected. Not the way that you would respect and listen and hear your girlfriends. Y'all refuse to try to understand men from a more logical level. Why? Because most women are thinking with their feelings and emotions, because that's what we as women do. Stop trying to make men be women. They're simply not. And when y'all try to constantly force men to act like women or to show emotion like women or to love like women, that is where the chaos comes into an explosion. Because you are trying to force something that's not what it is to be what you want it to be, and it's never going to work like that. There are some people in the world that love cats for exactly what they serve their purpose for. Most people say we like cats because they can keep the mice away. And then you have people that love dogs because dogs are protectors and they can keep bad people away. So if you're a person that like a cat specifically, but you want to take a chance on a dog, but now you find yourself wanting to train a cat to be a dog, baby, you're never going to get that cat to bark. You're just not. And
Is this true or not? Panel?
I can't wait to hear these, Nasheen. Go ahead, sisters. I'm popcorn ready.
I'm loving how everyone just went completely silent. Yikes. I will start.
I will say this. I know she said a lot. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I know she said a lot. Whatever sticks out to you. Like for example, I think that we use the emotion thing too much. Everyone has emotions. It's how you deal with the emotions. So I'm not talking about that part, but is what she's saying ultimately true? I like the cat and the dog example, but is what she's saying true? Go ahead, Maura.
I am going to say she's not. Well, I don't believe that men are incapable of love or incapable of loving, if that's what she's trying to explain. I do believe that a lot of us women don't know what love is. And when I'm having this conversation with a lot of women, their idea of love is what they see on TV. So when they are receiving love, the way that the Most High created a man to love us, they see it as a problem. So love is action, the things he do for you, the way he responds to you. Like, this is a man. We're emotional, so we respond very emotional, but men respond in actions. Like, I always tell people, if a man wants to pursue you or do anything for you, he's going to do it. If he want to make time for you, he's going to do it. If he wants to honor you, he's going to do it. And that is his love. So a lot of women don't understand what love is. They think that that love is just, oh, he's saying things that I would say, or he's buying me everything in the book. He's practical. So he's going to give you everything you need. And if you want it, he's going to give it if it's practical, if it makes sense. So it's like, I think that ultimately we don't understand men. And I think also in this generation, you know how to say happy wife, happy life. We've had so many things put on us to where the man isn't being loved correctly, because we have all these ideologies of how we should love a man and what the man should do. And none of us have really taken the time to biblically understand what a man's role is and what our role is. When it says provide and protect, we're not talking about he's just providing finances. There's a lot that a man can provide, especially when it comes to making sure that he's pouring into you, making sure that he's teaching you, things like that. These are things he's providing you with, or even protecting. Protection comes in a lot of ways. It's protecting your home, protecting your mental, protecting your physical, protecting you emotionally. So there's a lot of things that a lot of women have not experienced. So it's sad, because it's like, dang, you never really been loved. That's why you say men are incapable. But I hate when people make broad statements too, because it's like, you have not dated every man in the world. I'm sorry that you haven't seen every, you haven't had that as an uncle or had that as a father. I'm sorry for that, but every man isn't like that. You know what I mean? So.
Toda. Anyone else? This is a new segment I'm putting in there, y'all. So for the ladies on the panel, if y'all have videos y'all catch, please send it our way so we can put it on here for the It's This True segment.
Oh.
Oh,
I couldn't stop laughing after, because she brought a lot of things up. So yeah, that was a lot. And then, it's hard to receive something, whether it's true or not, when someone speaks in a way that is not really like, I'm not going to receive information if you're throwing it at me. Like, anyways, I don't know. I think some of what she's saying is true. I don't think all of what she's saying is true. And I think Kayuya said, I think it was that not all men are the same. So the lady in the video, it sounded like she was trying to specifically say that men are this one way, and that we as women are trying to create them to be another way. And I do think that there are women out there who are trying to create men to be a certain way, but I don't think that all men are only logical. I have uncles, I have brothers. They are completely different. Like, not completely, but they all like have a range of just differences. So I don't agree with everything she's saying. I do agree with the fact that you cannot create a man to be what you want him to be, but I do think that by vocalizing and expressing and communicating with your partner, you can tell him how you would like to be loved. You can, express, just like he needs to, and he has to express how he wants to be loved. We don't really know each other. Just like as people, we don't really know each other. So I think by, having conversations, we can understand each other's mindset and how we actually function. Not one sex is logical and not one sex is only emotional. Yes, women are way more emotional than men. I mean, we know that. But I've met a lot of men who are almost just as emotional as me. And I'm a very emotional person.
Unhealthy, play, unhealthy. Keep going.
It might not be healthy. A lot of time I met a few men who show emotion in a healthy way, like are secure and they're able to tap into that emotional part of themselves to have conversations with people that are emotional, with women that are emotional. So yeah, I don't completely agree with her. I agree with like little tiny points. But no, I don't completely agree with her. So yeah, that's all I have.
All right, all right. Who's next?
I'll go really quickly. The part that I guess stuck out to me the most was her. I think everybody's pretty much brought this out. Her just saying that men are incapable of love, and to me, that just was such a blazing flag of kind of what we've been talking about. Like if you believe that men in general as a totality are incapable of men, that means, again, as the young woman in the video said, that you have not been loved by a man. But this unfortunately would include her father. So this is really stemming from an issue of familial lack, in other words, because the first man you should experience love from is your father. And if you can sit here and say that men are incapable of love, that means, one, that you've never experienced love, including from your father, and two, you are choosing men based on what you think, or what based on something that's not clearly accurate or not working, because you're not experiencing that love. And for me, I know personally it took me being back under my father's house and returning to my father to remember what love is supposed to be like from a man, to remember what a true man is going to do. As Monica Yelia said, he's going to be actionable. This love that is going to be shown, you're going to be able to recognize it in another man because you saw it in your father. And I think it's extremely important for us to be able to recognize that these issues and a lot of these men and women, men versus women topics are coming from the broken family dynamic. People don't know what they're supposed to be looking for. People don't understand what love is supposed to look like because they haven't ever witnessed it. They haven't ever seen a healthy household. They haven't ever been able to experience the love of a man from a pure place, which comes first from your father. And I think that is the main issue that we are dealing with as a people, as a generation right now, is that we're seeing the effects of these broken families, but we're placing it in wrong areas. For her to say men are incapable of love is just completely farce. And I think it stems from her not receiving the love from her father. So I yield.
I'm gonna pass the mic to my Ishad. I'm not gonna say what I wanted to say just yet, but I stopped the video too. I should have kept going. She said something too in there, like she said that um, men love harder too. I stopped it, but go ahead. It's the
Shalom. So it was two videos. Of course, the woman that they took a soundbite from, I don't know what her context was. Either way, it was wrong. She said men are incapable of love. I would like to hear actually what she was speaking of, and most likely, like I think Maura Kayulia said, she was speaking from a place of hurt. And it's not even if she, and I put it like this, y'all, because I grew up with both sides, people that did not have a father and people that did have a father. And sometimes, even men, we like to go outside of what we know is right and do what is wrong. I know we've all been teenagers before, and we were all at one time disobedient, but I feel like it's not just because you don't have a father. Sometimes, what's the saying? It's something like love's company, misery loves company. And sometimes we play into it. I'll just say that there was even a man that I heard, he's saying he was blaming his mistakes on his father not being there when he clearly was just making the mistakes because he wanted to. And that was stated from a young man. But the video where she said men are incapable of love, of course, that is wrong. We all know that. We either grew up with the male figure or father that was able to show us, even in spite of what they went through, some shape or form of love. Some of us have friends or even a husband or brothers or sisters on maybe different sides who did not have a father, but they were still able to defeat the odds and love in whatever shape or form that looked like. It was still love. The only thing I would have to say, and I'm gonna land back off of Mora Ama, is I listen and I do pay attention, because whenever you hear a woman speaking and the first thing she says was, because you women, and I rarely listen to women content, you're a woman. So how as women do we take that coming from another woman? What if another woman took that mindset? I'm gonna disregard this. She's just trying to bait men in. So I feel like the presentation came off very rough. I don't know what she has going on, but I'm just saying that I pay attention to everything. And even though somebody might be saying something that has a few points in it, you always got to look at the motive. People will pipe the piper you out here just for a few likes. But no, I do agree with men are very capable of loving. I think that's a no-brainer. But I definitely would say that as women, if we're trying to just get the approval of men, that we need to be careful and stick to not being so general, because we all can put 10 men on a roster and they would want love differently. You have some men that want to be cuddled more than other men would want to be cuddled. I have 7 brothers. Well, I have 6 living, but their personalities are different. Some of them are alike, some of them are different. And you can't tell me that all of them, even though raised under the same household, are going to have the same needs. Everybody wants respect, no matter what that looks like. But men are very capable of loving. And so is she right or is she wrong on the on standing up for men knowing how to love? Came. And then I also want to add this point in there when she said they get it from TV. They get it from European TV, because I don't know any shows other than Bill Cosby, and that was a good example, and Family Matters, that showed us colored people loving in a fairy tale manner. We did not have that, and even now we do not have it. So they're talking about a Europeanized love. Zehu.
All right. Did you have some more, dude? Or someone talking right now?
Okay. Just want to first thank all of these wonderful Nashim for standing up for the brothers. You know, we truly appreciate y'all. You know, we love y'all. And she was sticking up for us too. You know, in her own way, um, her own paradigm and thought process. Was she right? I believe that she was right in most of what she said. One, that we are capable. Two, that the misunderstanding or the disconnect is the lack of communication and the lack of experience with one another in a functional capacity, not dysfunctional relationships, not hanging around dysfunctional men, but hanging around men who truly do love. And I also just kind of bring it back to the generational topic. This is a very new conversation only for this generation. Only in this generation is there a question on the capacity for men to love. I'm sure if you ask your grandmothers, they wouldn't even entertain this conversation with you. Most of your mothers wouldn't entertain this conversation with you because they understood how a man loved. They loved through protection. They loved through sacrifice, through responsibility, through doing whatever is necessary to make sure that the household is taken care of. That's how a man would love. Even if you're looking in the scriptures, it wasn't a whole lot of Spanish telenovela TV. Your Korean shows don't look like that, Nasika. Your Korean love stories and all of that. You know, we have a way with words, but it's not scripted. right? And I think that because of social media and people getting on, and like Nasika said, people getting on for a 30-second clip and and saying something that is completely unrealistic, but they're saying it for likes. And now, hey, I was just praising y'all. I don't want to get on y'all bad side. So I would just keep it general. Both men and women, more women than men, they look at these clips and then you guys go directly into fantasy world because men have said something that sounds just so wonderful, but in reality, that's not how men really function. And if as it was stated, if you do have a father who loved you and they made sure that they poured into you, but you didn't really see them because they worked, but they made sure they had a balance. And going to the logical versus emotional aspect, there has to be a balance. Yes, as Nasik said, everybody has emotions, but men, we're kind of wired. We are wired to think more with our logical side, right? Even in the scripture, it said a man who can control his spirit, which means that logically you are, if your spirit gets riled up due to, spirit of jealousy or anger or whatever spirit comes upon you, you are able to use the spirit of Yah, which is not irrational or just emotional, and calm that other spirit down. So overall, of course, we are capable of love. We do love very hard. When we put ourselves out there, we gonna go all out, and we're gonna do the things necessary in the words and the poems and all of that may come later, but mostly we're going to do what we need to do and show you that we love you that way. So I yield with that.
All right. Did everyone go? Everyone went. All right. I'm going to comment now. Man, it's a lot said, a lot of fire, a lot of that good stuff. I remember it was a time where it was a woman that was an athlete. She was a star athlete. And then there was a man that was a star athlete. And this woman thought that since she was a star athlete, that she would beat the man that was a star athlete. And everybody on this panel already knows, biology wise, if you have the greatest woman runner and the greatest man runner, who should win? Come on, y'all, help me out now. Who should win? Y'all don't know?
The man.
You don't
The
sound
sure. I don't know. I feel like this is a trick question.
It's not. It's a direct question.
The man is going to blow her out of the
That's
water.
what I'm
If
saying.
we're
The
talking
man.
about an athletic man, a
Okay,
great athletic man, and a great athletic woman, the man is going to dominate.
that's
Period.
that's that's without question. Just from biology. This is not a gender thing I'm doing right now, but I'm about to bring something up. So as I had said before everyone started talking, that when people say logic, when people say emotion, I can't speak on how everyone else thinks. So let me just speak on me. I believe that both men and women are emotional, can be emotional. I believe that both men and women can be logical. They were both prophets and prophetess. They were men and women of the Most High. Do I believe that we have our strengths in different areas? One being on emotional, because it's a strength with being emotional, and it's a strength with being logical. It's just how you use it, right? Do you all agree with that or no? All right. So it's how you use it. And Daoud brought something out. He said that, and you all had said, I think it was more Zakaria who had said something about the emotional, that the women are a little more on that emotional side. This could either be one or two things. This could be just pushed on us to believe. And this is me. I'm not saying which one is which. This could be pushed on us to believe it, or we see it. That's up to you all to determine. It's either pushed on us or we see it. All right. So I wrote a couple things down because y'all was saying a lot of stuff. And it's some people that when they're thinking of a man, when they look at the average man, they will not call that person a man. They'll call him a man just from the biology standpoint. But would you all say or agree that your ideal or idea of an actual man are most men that you know of? Everyone's quiet. Chat. I ask you all, maybe y'all ask me. Your idea of a man are most men that? It's a direct question.
I would just say no for the
Thank
record.
you. Somebody, I'm waiting. It's a direct question. Are most men that? Your idea of a man, women, y'all, it's all women on the panel. Your idea of a man are most men that. It doesn't mean that your idea is correct or your idea could be correct. Your idea of a man are most men that you come encounter with, are they that?
Low. No, they are not.
All right. So I'm glad everybody shook their head. So if a woman or a man say that men are logical, doesn't that mean that the men that you is your idea of it, the ones that we call men, they wouldn't be qualified as that logical man that's being spoken about? Y'all understand my question?
No, can you rephrase or repeat?
Yeah, please. But that's
You don't understand my question either, more Dawood?
I mean, I understood it, but the way that you just presented it is you need to do it again.
Okay. I'm gonna do it one more time. If I don't get it, I'm throwing it away. We could just go for it. I just asked you all, your idea of a man, are most men that? You all said no.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. If most men are not that, and men are supposed to be logical, would that mean that most of the men that aren't that may not be logical?
Kane.
Okay. Is that fair or is it not fair?
Are you saying, just for clarity purposes, that most males are just not logical? Because they will because they will be disqualified from being classified as a man due to most men being logical. But because they are a male, most people call them men just for the sake of it. But they don't fit the qualifications.
Don't fit the qualifications. All right. I'm going to stop. Does anyone else have anything else on this topic before we go forward?
Yeah, it's just the aspect of, you say either you see it or it's been pushed on us. And I see, like, when you deal with young men, right, who don't have a father figure or a man in their life, they tend to take on the characteristics of the women in their life. And you see that their capabilities of controlling their emotions are very slim. And that's because they aren't getting that balance, with the man being the one who sits them down, talks them through their emotions, helps them understand why they're having these emotions. That's not happening. So now they're just kind of wild in their emotions. So you do see it. And on the flip side, young women who are just raised by their father and there's no real woman in there, they're kind of hard, kind of like most women who are in the military. They're very hard. They don't flow. Even if they put on a dress or something, it just don't look right. It's just unnatural, because they are in an environment where that emotion and all of that has to be taken out of them, which is a major part of them. So then they kind of don't know how to be them organically. So you see it in both situations, which is why men, only men can raise men, and only women can raise women. And when you don't have that balance, something's off, and you see it in our communities right now, both sides.
Is that something that's just taught, or is that something that's factual?
That's something that is uh, able to be seen. So I would say that it's more factual than taught, because it can't be taught, because people would then understand what they need to do in order to fix it. It
So
has
let
to
me
be.
let me explain what I'm asking. You have a lot of women that raise children or raise daughters, and they are not raising them right. And the same thing is vice versa with a man raising a son, and then that son not ending up being right because he wasn't raised properly. So I'm asking, when we say, because that's something we say too, we say only men can raise men and only women can raise women. Is that factual? Have you ever not seen, or have you never seen a man that raised a daughter? And have you never seen a woman that raised a man?
Um, I've seen both, and what I would say is that that woman who has that young man, one of her goals is to get a man in his life,
Mm-hmm.
because she know, because it's not, there are certain things that a woman can't teach a man,
Mm-hmm.
and there are certain things that a man just can't teach a woman, because it's not in us to do those things. We have the ability to nurture, but typically in nature, you see that it is the female of whatever species that's more of the nurturer,
Mm-hmm.
the one who protects and, provides and does discipline and all that, is typically the male of whatever species that you're talking about. It's just nature. So we are the only species, I would say, that thinks that a male can raise a female and she be all that she needs to be as as a female. And we're the only species that thinks that a female can raise a male and that male be everything that it needs to be in within that species. We're the only we're the only aspect of Yah's creation that does this.
All right. Anyone else? All right. So last question, you all. Last question. Last question is: could it be said that every generation is a make or break generation? We talked about a lot of things pertaining to the generations. You all brought out a lot of different pivotal points, whether it be positive or negative. Could it be said that every generation is a make or break generation?
Um, I think that I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would say though that every generation is indeed pivotal and that every generation is necessary because I believe that every generation provides something that is necessary for the greater change to eventually happen. Like even with the complacency and like the lackadaisical effort of the, crack baby generation. No offense, love you guys. Um, even with that, like we've learned something from that. Like we watched our parents who went to work and were complacent in things and didn't become entrepreneurs or didn't really fight for anything. Like we watched them suffer and fade away and go to these 9 to 5s and just be so complacent. And from us watching that, I think that has definitely caused a greater desire in us to want to change more. I know me personally, me watching my mother go to work and not live out her dreams and not do the things that she was created to do, and literally just watching her suffer day in and day out and go to this 9 to 5, that made me say, I'm not doing this. I don't want, this is not something that is my desire. And so I'm not sure that every generation is a make or break generation necessarily, but again, I do believe that every generation is extremely pivotal, and that every generation provides something that the next generation is going to need. And I yield.
Shalom. Can you bring the question back up? Could it be said that every generation is a make or break generation? I had posted something earlier in the comments. I said it's that on the brink of the promised land mindset. I believe that every generation, and my aim used to teach me this. She said every generation a person has a defining moment. And I believe whenever a generation was faced with that defining moment, based on where we are now in 2025, that a lot of them did what they could do, but the most influential people, I would say, not so much failed us, but might have dropped the ball. We get so close to getting to an era, even if it's just good for a season, and a lot of times we mess it up. And I believe that every generation, because the Tanakh, our literature, it shows it that we all had a moment to move forward, and the Most High will bless us. It's promised. It's the covenant that if we did certain things, He would bless us, and especially that commandment that we seldomly look at, the commandment to honor your mother and your father, so that your days will be prolonged on the earth that your power has given you. I feel like in that generation somewhere, once it starts breaking, we stop honoring our parents. And that means the children that were had out of dishonoring parents, they dishonor you, and so forth and so forth. So I believe that every generation, Cain is a potential make or break generation, because we a lot of times fall short of what our assignment is. Like even now, like we have AI on the rise, and it's going to replace a whole lot of stuff, relationships, jobs, everything. And I feel like if we don't answer to the calling and do what we're supposed to do, that it's only going to get worse from here. And how worse could it get? I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. Saddam and Amora. I feel like we are at a very sensitive part in this generation, that if we don't get it together, that it's going to be very detrimental to the youth. The youth are already at a point where they are not respecting us, because why would you respect your elders and your elders don't love each other? Why would you respect the man and the man doesn't respect himself? Why would you respect the woman and clearly you go on social media and there's no covering, everybody's just wanting to be free and it's my body type thing? So I feel like we're on the verge of breaking if we don't really tap into asking for forgiveness and some type of unity. I don't have all the answers, but Zehu.
King, I'm gonna tap in only because you stole literally all that I was gonna say. But there was a last part that I was gonna bring in, and it was just three things for each. What makes us a generation would be us restoring, building, and guarding. Those are the three things that can make us a generation that does what it's supposed to do. Or we can break this generation by continue to rejecting the things of Yah, becoming complacent, and assimilating to the dominant culture. He calls us to be set apart. And when we start to assimilate instead of setting ourselves apart and making ourselves the dominant culture, that's where we break them. So I do think that if we think about those things, we're sitting in the seat of whether we want to make this generation or break it.
Oh yeah.
All right. Anyone else?
Moro, Ama, Zakaria, y'all go ahead.
I think depending on I think just depending on what we're like thinking about, if we're thinking about in the context of like, generations speaking as Hebrew Israelites, if we're thinking, in that mindset, in that mind frame, um, I would say that every generation is make it or break it. It's either going to succeed or fail. Torah kind of tells us that, like with the continuous, involvement of the Most High, saying this generation ain't gonna be there. This generation, they'll be there. They passed it. They love me. So I think in that context, yes. Um, every generation is make it or break it. However, I think in a broader kind of I guess generalized way of thinking about it, no, I don't think that every generation is make it or break it. I think that there is a kind of middle ground where for instance, we already talked about the silent generation and the baby boomer generation, and I guess even my generation, where there were many successful things that occurred, but that wasn't the overall succeeding of the Black community. Like, people tried their absolute best and they did what needed to be done, but there were other forces and other obstacles that came into play that didn't allow them to be the most successful that they could have been. So that's where the middle ground kind of comes into play of like, you were successful in some ways and in other ways you did fail. So yeah.
Toda. Anyone else?
Okay, I will go. Okay, so is every generation a make or break generation? Low. Um, I will say that every generation has the opportunity to improve. Um, it's our scripture say, or our literature, as Nasik would say, says that the Most High's faithfulness continues throughout all generations. His mercy endures from generation to generation. We are to tell of His glory from generation to generation. So those things are generational. But when you're talking about a make or break generation, um, how how long does a window of opportunity stay open? Is it open forever? So if it's not open forever, then that means that there are pivotal moments where you have an opportunity to improve and progress, or typically if you miss that window of opportunity, you don't really stay stagnant. You kind of decline if you miss that window of opportunity. I like sports, love sports. So there are moments where a team will go on a what they call a Cinderella run, and they'll make it to a final or they'll make it to the championship, and then they'll lose. And then the next year, everybody be like, okay, well, look, they made it to the championship, they right there. But the next season, they completely tank, right? They go completely in the opposite direction. That was a window of opportunity. That was a pivotal moment in that franchise's history. Why do I bring that up? Does anybody know what is said about the quote unquote African American community by the year 2050? Y'all shaking your head. Y'all can answer for the people who
Is
don't.
that the genetic thing where we were gonna be mixed with everybody?
Mm-mm,
I've seen
mm-mm,
something like that too,
mm-mm.
but that's
Well,
clearly not it. Sorry.
no, it's fine. Nasika, I seen you. Oh, where Nasik?
Well, she basically, I mean, the scriptures speak on it, but she said we basically won't own nothing.
Huh?
We won't own anything.
Okay. By the year 20, 2050, some studies say year 2053, the median wealth of Black Americans could fall to 0%, meaning that they would essentially have 0% of wealth by this date. This is often cited as a warning about the potential for a significant decline in Black wealth if systematic issues are not addressed. You're talking about close to just 20 years from now. So for those who have children, add 20 years, right? If you got babies in their 20s, they will have zero. They will be behind every other quote unquote ethnicity or race, or if you're Hebrews, they will be behind every culture, nation within this place, if there is a place called the US of A. But as it stands right now, they will be at the bottom. So we're talking about this generation having that warning there. And if you don't get a culture, and for those who are Ibrit, right, we still don't have any established institutions within our community, right, who can that in those established institutions, can they counteract what the warning is? Right now, we don't have that. So if that's the case, then that means that over this next 10 to 15 year period, really 5 to 10 year period, we have to move in a way that we have a goal at hand, which is to completely counteract what is being stated of us to come in just the next generation. So this is definitely a make or break generation. That the next generation, it won't be a make or break because they would have already been broken. It would have already been. That's what I'm saying, as in the next generation, if we don't do it, then they're going to be broken, and then they're going to raise their children in a broken state, which then leads to that next generation being even more depressed than the generation that we are trying to raise up now. Zehu.
Toda. Anyone else? All right. Well, we appreciate those of you that stuck with us and tuned in. We hope that you enjoyed the platform, the topics, and we hope to have you back next week. And if you have any topics yourself that you want us to speak on, please let us know. All right. Anything else? You look like you want to say something more. Kaya, you was smirking. All right. Guess not. Shalom, everyone. May the Most High bless and guard you all. Shalom, shalom.
See the peace. There are steps that